Trading the foreign exchange market carries high risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Trading on margin, utilizing leverage can carry an even higher level of risk that can lead to a complete loss of investment funds. So before deciding to trade the foreign exchange market or using any of our software alert products, you should carefully and diligently consider your personal investment objectives, level of experience, and risk tolerance. There is a possibility that you could potentially sustain significant loss. You should not invest any capital or trade that you cannot afford to lose. It is your responsibility to be aware of and understand all risks associated with foreign exchange trading and to seek professional advice from an independent certified financial advisor if you have any doubts. Auvoria Prime does not exercise trading authority over your trades. You and you alone exercise discretionary trading authority over every trade.
Today is, I always look at, it's an orange folder, but it's still kind of a crucial and important one to look at, especially for the Canadian dollar, is a crude oil inventory report. So if you like to trade oil or trade the Canadian dollar, this one at 11 o'clock usually does move the market somewhat. So be aware of that. Coming in, that's pretty much all we have for Thursday. Now Friday, we have some red folder stuff on Friday. We have some OPEC meetings and things like that. And there's enough red folders that one of our developers who has some of the software says they're just going to pause all his software on Friday, waiting for these announcements. There's a lot of red stuff. There's British, all currencies, Canadian dollar. So just be aware that on Friday, if you're into using any of the automated software products that we have, or if you're trading yourself, you may just want to just maybe sit in the sidelines a little bit and see what happens on Friday. Again, that's tomorrow. And so we're going to now look and see what's hot and what's not. Here's our correlator. I'll see where we are, what's strong and what's not strong. So right now I'm looking at all 4 time frames. I'm seeing that the Swiss franc is fairly strong on the 15-minute, the 30-minute, and my 1 hour. So there's a lot of strength to the Swiss franc. New Zealand dollar seems to be, and Australian dollar seems to be the weaker of the two. The yen seems to be relatively strong. So we're looking at the Swiss yen as being the strong pairs. I would not trade the Swiss against the yen because they're both fighting for top dog right today. And I would not be trading the Aussie against New Zealand, but I would be trading the Swiss against the Aussie or New Zealand. Now in the British pound, or the yen against the Aussie, British pound, or New Zealand. So that's what we're looking at in that regard. So let's go to, let's take a look at a Swiss, I was working on a Swiss British pound pair earlier. So let's see what we have here. We have a couple of things we're going to look at. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mark our zones on the trading view that we're looking at, the significant zones. And then we're going to transpose those over onto our MT4 platform for those of you who do not have TradingView. That way you get the best of both worlds, so to speak. So right now I'm looking at on the 15-minute chart with the Fibonacci, our algorithmic Fibonacci. We're looking at, here's a red zone right here. So we're going to mark this as a 15-minute red. And that price is at 126.56. Oops, why did that go that way? 15-minute red. There we go. 126.56, 1.2656. And then it's basically the trade between the red and green zone, and that's at 125.94. 5-minute green, 15-minute green. And then we're going to draw our Fibonacci retracement between this range and this range. This is our playground for this pair for this morning or today until it breaks out of this range. This is our playground. So if you have your MT4 platform, you don't have TradingView, just put some horizontal lines at these areas right there on your MT4 platform. The upper 25% is right in here. My whole trade. There you go. So right here is the upper 25. Take that back. And we're going to mark this as our high time frame 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. 25%. Right, higher time frame, lower 25%. And then we have the middle zone right here. I'm just going to mark some horizontal lines on that. Just make it. And that's really right where we are playing right now. Like these are entry zones. Usually make these orange. Let me see if I have an orange one up here. Let's call this a range marker. Just make this yellow green. Change the color of this. Make it orange. There we go. That's better. And we're going to clone these and just mark our middle thirds that we look at right in there. And there's our thirds. So now we're going to go to our lower time frame. And you can see with MT4 or with TradingView, it transposes on all our different time frames. So here's our zones on a 5-minute chart. And we have them over here on our 1-minute chart. And now we're looking to see which way is this thing going as we put on our tools. Let me just take this one off. We don't really need these right now. We do see that it's going in we would want to be taking these things short. If you look and see where the purple line is going to be the British pound, the gray line is going to be the Swiss franc. So we see that the Swiss is strong on all three time frames. This has a spread of 5. This has a spread of 6. This one has a spread of 3. It's coming down and it's coming into our zones here. So right now we're going to be looking at trying to see if we can find a trade. The range on these are there. Now this is at 26.25 to 18. So these are 7 pips in between. And here's our, so we're going to draw our Fibonacci. And we'll use this pivot high to this point right here. And now we're looking to see for a pullback. Right now, I don't want to be catching a falling knife. Right now, it already broke through the first two. We're actually a little bit late to the party on this one. But it's coming right now. Here's where the low is. Here's where it started breaking out of the 20% zone. That's the blue area up here. And see, it actually broke out, came back, retested. We have our trend line coming in from the top here. Here's our trend. There's our first hit. Here's the anchor. Here's the first hit. Here's a couple of near retests, and it's falling apart again. So right now we still have the Swiss to the downside. Right now we're looking for a pullback, looking for the pullback back up into this 23 to 50% area that we often talk about. Here's my red 20. Here's the 23. Here's the 50. This is our entry zone. We do have room. You can see it came right down. It tagged this Fibonacci line. You can see it tagged it once, pulled back, tagged it again, pulling back a little bit. Now the question is it going to pull back enough to be able to give us we're looking for a 7 pip target. There's a 19. The blue zone is at 9. There's 10 pips in between here and here. So the further it pulls back, the easier it's going to be to get to our target zone, which will be, if I turn these things on, my target would be right here, this blue line, about 126.15. We should be able to get, if we get enough of a pullback, if the strength stays the same, we should be able to get that pullback and hit our blue target line, which is right here. This is our 2-minute target blue line right here. See how it does.
I just took profit on the Euro Aussie.
Oh, aren't you special?
Well, yeah, I jumped in before.
We always thought so.
That's my
But that's not
aggressive one.
small school bus special, right?
No.
That's funny.
You see how this thing's coming right on up to the 126.21 area. Right there's where the green line. It came right up there, just tagged it. And it's certainly have a initial drop, a little bit of a base, and we'll see if it's going to drop again. So right now, you could probably take this thing. We have the momentum to our side on all three time frames. We're getting the pullback.
You know me, I'd be in.
Well, I know I got to get to my chart though.
I just don't have that pair.
British Swiss, British Swiss, British Swiss, British Swiss.
So it slows you down.
Yeah.
Chart window, British Swiss. Get my chart up here. It's hard to do when I'm trying to show two different charts at the same time. One minute chart. Come on, there we go. There's our little pullback right here. And I don't have this chart marked up, but I need it in order to take the trade. I'll take a sell on this. We have a green candle. I'd like to see this candle start turning red before I take the trade. Right now it's, draw this fibs real quick here. Here's the origin. Here's the pullback. Got a little bit of a basing here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a sell stop in right down here at the bottom of this, right where this bottom is. And if it comes up and triggers, I'll start moving that up a little bit as it goes. This gets closer and closer to this upper zone, and then try and catch it as it turns around. I'm going to go with a right click, trade, sell stop. Trade is in. Now we're just waiting for it to trigger. And it's coming into we have a had the pullback, we have a red candle. These moving averages aren't coming anywhere right now. They're nowhere close to crossing. Now, if this then comes up and tags this 13, now here's our zone, the 23 to the 50 areas. That's our zone that we're looking at for it to pull back into. It's almost crossed the 23. I like to see it get into that 23, at least to the 23 on the pullback. There's my tool here.
The area that it's bouncing off of is the 38, believe it or not.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
So right here's our 23 to 50 zone. Here's the 38 retracement. I'm just going to pull this out. Looks like this thing's still. I'm going to try and get a little bit better entry. I'm going to put it right here on the 11 line. Trying a little bit better entry as it comes through. It should come through. If this thing pulls back and starts to give us another long candle down again, it's going to get me in the trade and probably get me out of the trade all in the same swoop. Here's our target zone right down here. If it pulls back to the 23, we're looking at a 23 overshoot of the 0 line. And so this would be our target. And you can see from the target, top of the target to where my entry is, that's only 6 pips. Maybe a little bit shy of my 7, but we also have the spread right now. The spread is right about a 1.6 pip spread on this. I'm in. I'm going to set my target. I'm going to set my 7 pip targets, 15 pip stop. Get everything. Now you can see my stop is way up here. My target is right down here. Now it's going to be. See now we had the pullback. It came in, got me into trade. Right now it never even pulled back at all. Right now it hasn't pulled back at all. Now it still has to get through this bottom, this little pivot down here. If it can break through that, now we're looking for a nice little trade to the downside. We have the momentum to our back. And I'll just look to see if it can come down. And you see my 7 pip target is right in here. But remember, it has to get through the spread. The spread, we have that white line and red line here. Our spread, we have about a 2 pip spread on this. So it's going to have to get through this line by 2 pips in order to get me filled. If it comes down here and just starts pounding away and bouncing, I'll just pull it off and say thank you for the trade, and I'll go on to the next one. Any questions?
No.
Yeah, so we're on our 1 minute chart. We're just looking to see what the price action is. Like I said, if it comes up, basically it's trading right now from this pivot to this pivot. This is our upper 20% right up in here. If it breaks that, I'll probably get stopped out. But we also had that this was the first pit. This zone right here was where the first drop came back, retested. This little zone right in here, where our moving average coming in is coming down. You can see that they're both pointing down. If I'm wrong in this trade, I will probably realize it by the time it gets out and closes through this little area right up in here. Here's our drop basing. Here's a little pivot area, dropped again. This is where the strong candle came out, came back up, retested it, couldn't get up that high. Now, if this little pivot breaks, come up here, my stop's still way above here. But if this thing starts to change over and starts trending on up, I'll take an opposite position and see if my stop will hold. Because right now, I think my stop is still in a decent spot. I'll take an opposite position, get some lock in the drawdown, take some profit when it comes up here, and then take another position here when it comes back down again. But right now, that's out of harm's way. This is a barrier. We have the trend line, the moving average, which is a barrier. So we have all of my trend lines are still in the right direction. My green is still below my yellow. My yellow is still below my 62. Everything's still in the right direction. And when I check let me check my trading view chart and see and everything's still, the Swiss is still strong. Swiss is the second currency of the pair, so we're going to have our strength is to the downside. We are getting a little bit of a pullback in here. It is testing this little zone right now, but we're still okay with that. Made a little bit of a smaller low. Now this third orange line, it has been respected a little bit. I still expect it to come down and tag that, but it's going to pull back and see what it does with this one. Right now, it's just trading inside this 7 pip area. Am I confusing anybody by switching back and forth to these charts? Because right now the chart should be drawn pretty much all the same. The only difference is we have some of these institutional levels right here at the 26.22, and the next one is at the, let's see, these are, oh, yeah, these are 7 pips apart. Here's the next red zone here. This is the 7. It broke through. It closed below the green. Still looking for it to come back to the blue. It may come up here and tag this red line, which is still in our entry box. It's tagging the orange line. Still have our trend coming down. Everything's still looking good. Now we're on a 1 minute chart. We got a little flip where the British pound started getting a little bit stronger. But now we're going to see, the Swiss is still stronger on the 5 minute. It's still stronger on the 15. This is just a pullback. All it's going to do is possibly give you a little bit better entry. Now, if these start to flip over, then you wait for this thing to come back, and then you start maybe looking to think about reversing your position. Questions?
All good. Now we're back to that waiting game.
Yep. One thing we're trying not to do, we're trying not to confuse anybody. We're trying to keep things as consistent as we possibly can. But I also want to give the people that have the trading view the ability to trade with it. And I said, it's easy enough to just transport these lines. I'll give you the numbers and just put them on your MT4 platform. That way you're looking at the same picture we are. It's just a little bit easier drawing it this off of this platform. I'm just going to clean up my 15-minute chart here a little bit. And so right now, look, here's our green line, here's our red line. Our entry is right now here. We're right at between the, our entry is actually, we can actually be using this green line to this is our 7 pip range. It's right into that range right now. It's hitting this orange Fibonacci line that we drew earlier. It has our institutional levels right here, the red and the green. And it's coming right up into our moving average. Now this white moving average line on this 1 minute chart is a 62 exponential moving average. And you can see right now, we did get a little bit of a cross right here of the green and the yellow, but we're just getting some consolidation right here in our low entry zone. We still have our trend line coming down. It hasn't hit our trend line. Our stop is still way above our trend line. And we're just looking at this to be in the pullback. Now, we'll know the pullback is done when these two flip back over to where we have the gray above the purple. And that tells us that the Swiss is now strong again. Right now, this is just the pullback. The British pound took over and say, hey, let's take a look at this. Let's drive the slide back up again. And we wait for the Swiss to say, nope, you're not doing it yet. And then once it pulls back, we have our little wedge here. Here's our drop. Here's our base. Here's our retracement. If you take a trend line, and this is another thing to be able to do. Let me get my trend line here. I'm going to call this our stick. And we have this high, and we have this low. And we draw a stick right from that high to the low. And then when we get the pullback, which we just having a pullback, we can take this stick over here, put it at the top of the pullback, and here's your target down here. If it pulls back a little bit higher, you just move the stick up a little bit higher. This would be what you call a Fibonacci extension. But basically, all you're doing, you're measuring the long move down, the pullback, and a lot of times you'll get the one-to-one. This is the first leg up, retrace, and then this leg oftentimes is going to be as long as this or longer on the downside. So right here's our target. And I believe our target on this one was at our target here is 2614. 2614 is right. Our target is right up here. So we're right here at the blue line. This is 2-minute blue right there. Right now, these higher time frames are still maintaining dominance over the direction, still in the direction of the Swiss. Pullback has happened, and now we're just waiting. And now we just do the waiting game.
Isn't it fun?
We're just playing out one at a time. And you can be, once you get comfortable and you start understanding the methodology pretty well, you can be looking at others in the meantime while you're waiting for this to develop. We're already in the trade. We already have our stop set. We already have our target set. Now I'm just trying to show everybody how this thing plays out, play by play, candle by candle. Right now we have the cross of the green and yellow moving averages. So right now everything, we have our 62 up here, we have our 13, our 5, everything's in the right direction, and we're just following this thing down. Here was the bottom of the move, right down here. It just broke the bottom. It's coming and testing that orange target area. If we can get a 5-minute close below that, we should be good to go. We're on our 5-minute chart over here in the middle.
I just closed out my Kiwi yen.
When did you get into those? Must have been before the
Right
session.
before the session.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Let me check my chart on that one. I may have jumped into that right as we started.
Yeah, you can
Nice-
see on this. Oh, I'm
Nice
sorry,
breakdown.
Brian.
I was just going to say nice breakdown of the pound yen or pound Swiss.
If you can see over right here, we still have 3 minutes. There's a little clock right in here. You can see where it says 3 minutes and 2 seconds. That's how long it's going to take before this 5-minute candle closes. The 15-minute candle has a little clock too. So basically the 15-minute and the 5-minute are going to close at the same time. When they both close at the same time, that's even, you have all 3 time frames are confirmed to close under that. That's significant. I like seeing the 5-minute close below these key areas, but a lot of times I jump in before then with the anticipation that it will. If it comes down, wicks, and doesn't close below, then we have to rethink our situation. But right now, everything's looking good. We did get the 1-minute close, but we're going to get a little bit of a pullback as this thing is playing around in here. But once we get this 5-minute candle to close, I'll feel a lot better about that's going to reach my target. You'll get a lot of volatility with on these 1-minute charts, but it will give you a little bit earlier entry. Not necessarily the best entry, but we have our target right down here. We'll see if it can come back down, and we had a nice little wedge. We still have a high, a lower high, a low, and a lower low. So right now it's trending. Strong move down, a pullback. Strong move down, broke this. Now it's pulling back again. It is starting to flatten out a little bit. We'll see if it holds this green line. Here's our green 2-minute line. Price point on that is going to be 2-minute green, 2-minute green right there. And the price point on that one is, I can see it myself here. Looks like 126.22.
What's your strength meter say on the Kiwi yen?
Kiwi yen.
Mm-hmm.
Kiwi is weak, yen is strong.
Perfect. Thank you.
So we could be looking at that one. So we could be looking at a Kiwi yen.
Yeah, I just did a set and forget.
While we're waiting for this one, Euro yen, Kiwi yen. That's the wrong one. I don't want that one.
I don't want to get too correlated.
But
most everything I'm doing is short.
New Zealand yen here. Okay, so here's our New Zealand yen. We have our. Let's make sure we're on the 15-minute. Yep. Now the yen, these lines are going to be a little bit different with the yen pair because of the value of the yen versus the dollar. The yen is basically 100 to 1 roughly. So these lines are going to be a little bit different, but nonetheless, they'll still be effective. Right now, I'm looking at it's going from a green zone to a green zone. And let me move this thing off. Let's turn that one off right now. And so I'm going to be looking. So I would be drawing my Fibonacci's. For my 15-minute, I'd be going, here's my blue. These are all 15-minute zones. But I would just be using this level here, 76.75 to 76.11. I'd be looking at those two here. So these are green. Template 15-minute green. 76.75 to the green. 76.11. And I'll draw my fibs with that and see where we're at with the range of this thing. Just 12 pips. Lock this. That way they won't move on me. Here's our range. Again, I'm using the 15-minute pretty much as the higher time frame. Here's the upper 25 zone, lower 25 zone. You can make those marks, and you have your middle three. Right now it's coming into the bottom 25. Here's our daybreak right here. Here's our lower 25%. Here's the upper 25. And it's coming right down. You can see it's coming right down into this area. I would be careful, waiting for a little bounce in this area. I'd be waiting for it to, since it's already, now we've had a nice big move over it. And if you look over, right now, we don't know what's over here to the left. So we have to go to a higher time frame and see what's following this green line over here to the left off our chart. I'll go to a 4-hour chart, and you can see right now it's breaking. Here's a pivot low, right? Here's the pivot. And you see it's retesting this little area right in here. I would expect a bounce, and that bounce is going to be right in the middle of this 25% zone. If this breaks, it's going to come down even lower. I'm going to have to go over, clear on over to the chart, and it's going to take all the way back to March, where this thing rocketed up in March. So right here, here's a pivot low. It broke that on the retrace and took off. So right now we have some buyers probably still sitting down in this area, which if I move this over, you can see right there's that little wick. I'm expecting a little bit of a bounce off of this little area right in here. Price says history. This is where it took off, came back, retested this area. This one came back, broke it, took off again. It's coming back in this area. I would expect another turnaround. I'd be looking for a turnaround in this area. I wouldn't want to be taken short at this point in time. Let's go back to our, oh, there's our target. We already got our target. We should be out of that trade. Let's take a look.
Nice 12 pips.
There we are. Already out of that. And we got the winning trade.
I'm out of my Aussie yen as well at the same time. Did we just have a news item of some sort, or just 7 o'clock?
Just 7 o'clock. But, that was our, but see how nice that worked out, though. It was, and it's still going down. I mean, we could have gone, and if you're of the mind, you can now follow this thing down till it gets to the next level. The next level on this, as I look down and see where this one broke, where this broke, check to see where the price is right now. Take a look over here to the left and see what's going to be in the way. Again, price has memory. Come out to a higher time frame so you can see the left side of the chart. Well, you see there's nothing over here still from all the way back to July. Let's go back a little bit further. Still nothing on our chart. How about our daily chart? Well, there it is. Okay, right here, this is the origin. Nice big candle coming out. This is the origin of that move. And so here's our, if we come over here and we see where the price is, which is that white line, it comes into a wick. I drop down the bottom of the wick to see if I run into a body of a candle. Right here's the body of the candle. Here's a little wick. I'm going to draw my little box right in this area, right in here. I'm going to take it right to the top of the body. Price came down. It took off. Came back down, retested here a little bit. Didn't quite make it down that deep. Now it's taking out this little pivot. If it can take out this little zone, it's a small zone, but we're on a, let's see, we're on a daily chart. So these are all daily candles. And so you can see that back in, what's the date here? This is back in May 6th is where this low came. Now, if it breaks this, we have to figure out where's it going to go lower. Let me take this one off. If this area, this little zone breaks, this is all the move from last night. Now, here's something to consider, is that when you see these big daily or higher time frame candles, somewhere in the middle here, there's a little bit of a drop. There's a little basing, and it's been trending. This is just a point of illustration. Let me take this thing off.
7 of 9 trades today. And one of them that was a loss came from the euro pound yesterday that I just held on to. So that's pretty good numbers.
Oh, let me just go with the arrow here. Okay, so I'm on a daily chart right now. Oops, I got the arrow one. Well, we can just keep it on. We can just keep on this. Here's the daily chart. So if I draw a Fibonacci, now you can see this is all one big old candle right in here. This is a daily range. But if you look inside that daily range, as I spread this thing out, this one daily candle, this is just today, you should see where there's some little bit of a, you see how it's trending? This is where I drew that line. Came down,
Good.
strong move down, retrace. Strong move down, basing, strong move down, retrace. Strong move down. And you can see that even though on that those daily candles, there's little zones all along in that daily candle where you can see prices could probably come back and retest this area. And look where they are. We're bouncing right over these fib lines. Came up, just put his nose up above, came down, wick down below, based a little bit, went down further. It held, this one held, came back, retested, based in between these two lines, broke, now it's still trending again. And it's still going down. But right now, our target low right now is going to be right over in here. This was the daily low from that one daily candle. Here's our daybreak. Their daybreak's right here, I think. Yeah, this is a new day right here. All these vertical dash lines. So this is where it is. And so right now it's making new lows for the day. And we've already determined that the low is going to be all the way, is coming right into that area with the daily chart. It's coming right into that area from back a couple, 2 or 3 days ago. Again, it's going sideways inside our range, but it's trending inside that sideways range. Here's our pivot high. And you can just do it this way too, rather than using those other fib lines. And say, where was the significant high? Well, it was right here. This was yesterday's high. This was yesterday's low. It broke yesterday's low. Now it's going into the next low. If it breaks that, it's coming into the next low, which is going to be down here. And you can see, as we're looking at all these, if you look at, again, you look at the wicks. You follow this line over, here's the wick, come down to the bottom of the wick, come over to the body, here's the body. You can see a little, at this point, it's going to, from this wick to the body, is going to, the price is probably going to come down to at least where these other wicks are. Here's another wick, there's the body, come on down. When you get these really big wicks, and you have, when it gets real wicky, like up in here, let's see, that's not a good example. Like right over here, when you come down and you get like this little wick here, it comes back, hits another wick, come down to the wick, come back over, you hit another wick, come back down, come back over, you hit another wick, come back down, hit another wick, keep coming down until you get to the body of the candle. Right at this point where this bottom wick hits the body, this is the next target right down there. But right now we have this little wick right here we have to deal with. As you see, all the prices coming in, it's still hitting this wick. So this is a little zone right in here, which is a lot what you're seeing with this zone right now. Now, this thing still has some momentum to the downside. And that's all I have to say about that. Questions?
And that's all I have to say. That's all I have to say about that. I went ahead and yeah.
Brian, do you have anything?
I just said I just went ahead and re-entered another trade on the Kiwi yen on the way down with the momentum push. I'm telling you, that tool is amazing.
Kiwi yen, let me find it.
Or not Kiwi, Euro Kiwi. All right, yeah, Kiwi yen. I'm looking at the Euro Kiwi now.
Kiwi yen, which one do you want to look
Kiwi
at?
yen is what I just jumped into a little bit ago. But I'm also looking at the Euro.
Eva, what did you say?
I said that Joe Tian is saying that the German 30 is melting.
Oh, nice.
I saw it was just tanking earlier this morning when I was looking at it. I haven't traded it yet today, but.
Brian, did you see that mine yesterday within half an hour of the session end?
I'm going to look at it now. That's right. When you said it, I forgot. I don't even look at this very often, so I'm going back now.
So here, if you were just drawing now without these other tools, I'm just going to do the same thing I just did with the other tool. I'm just doing it with the Kiwi Yen.
Ooh.
Where the price is. I look over here. Where's the next? Right now, we don't know where this next pivot is because we can see that it had a range. This was what day was this? This was on Monday, I guess. Monday, Tuesday. This was Tuesday's high. Tuesday. So Tuesday, it was trading the price. When we were gotten in the room, was probably trading in between here and here. I say you don't need the tools that we have, but they do save a lot of time and they are helpful. So this was the range it was trading in. Well, now it broke that. So once it broke this pivot here, you can look over here and say, well, here's another zone right here. So let's take a look at this and see what this one looks like. Well, it broke this one already broke this one here. So now this is the next little area. Strong move up, come back down. It hasn't tested this little zone. So right now, here's another little zone right in here. Well, it came back. Well, guess what happened? It blew through that one too. So we have to go look at, so this one's done. Go to a higher time frame.
I have no demand on this. That's why I went ahead and went momentum on it.
Yeah, so here, right now, here's, you have none. So we have
no demand. Okay. No demand on a 15-minute chart other than fib numbers.
So we were tracking this thing down and say, okay, here's, as you're looking down, here's the strong move down. Here's the pullback. It broke that. Now we're looking for, okay, where is the next target going to be? And right now, I can't see the target on here. So I've got to go to a higher time frame and wait until I can see where the price is all the way down here. It even broke. This thing's got a really strong move down because you can see right now where the price is. If you come over here, you can see it already broke. This was the origin of the huge move. Here's the origin. And you see it came back down. We had a trend line. Here's our trend line right in here.
What chart are you looking at right now? You're the 4-hour. If you looked at the 15-minute on that same thing, you will see that the price hit 76.11, which is our green fib line, and that's where it's bouncing from right now.
Okay.
But there's no real demand there.
76.11, you say?
76.11.
All right, let's see where 76.11 is. So we go here to 76.
I mean, it literally touched it and bounced off.
Okay, this is our green fib line, 76.11 right there. You say it was green?
Yeah, which means strong support.
Here's our green fib line. So here's our line. Let's take over here and see what this price right now, it bounced off of this fib line. Let's see what it did over here to the left. Now I have no idea because I have not looked at this yet. I'm gonna go to my 4-hour chart. And you can see right now that this pivot low was right above. And how many pips was that? That was on a 4-hour chart. That was 7 pips. Come on over a little bit, take it over a little bit more to the left. Here's our green line. Here's the origin. Right now, if this thing breaks this green fib line, it's going right down to here. Here's going to be the next line. And I'm going to put that, and you tell me where the closest fib line is, Brian. I'm going to put it right down here at the pivot.
How about 75.89? Well, at least it's on the.
How about where's 75.59?
Okay, that would be 75.68 and 75.47. You've got a blue line on a 15-minute chart at 75.90.
Which is all the way up here. So this one's going to be a little bit more valuable.
But you're also talking a 4-hour chart. So
yeah, this is real. I mean,
you're actually on a daily.
We are getting into our lower 25% of this move right here. We're getting into it's testing the 25% area of this. So if I'm going to clean up this chart a little bit.
Since you're on a daily, I'm going to do you a favor on this.
I'm still going to use this. I'm going to draw my fibs off of this line. So right now, this is higher time frame stuff, but it just.
You have a fib number at 75.58.
75.58. 75. Well, I always thought 56. That was within 2 pips. So right here is my lower 25. It's now in the lower 20. You can see how this thing came into the lower 25% of this big move. Here's my lower 25. Pivot 25%. It's in that zone. Well, look what happened when it came into that zone. It pulled back out, retraced, and then it started going up a little higher. Now on a daily chart, this is a pretty good size move from here to here. That's 185 pips. Again, we're only going for 7. So we don't need to be on a chart this high, but we need to know when we're in these zones of these higher time frame zones, is because we're going to be expecting this thing to turn around somewhere in this area. However, if you look and see what the size of this zone is right here, that is New Zealand yen. Actually, that's going to be $10 move, 76 to.
And you're actually sitting in a 4-hour demand zone, followed by another 4-hour demand zone starting at 76. So you're right on target with this stuff.
Yeah. So as this thing now, right now, it needs to get out on the higher time frame. It needs to get out of this zone. But in the meantime, we're looking at this thing trending. And we don't know where it's going to go, but we do know it's already starting to get near the end of it's going to start exhausting itself. And we're going to start looking for a little turnaround in here. And once you start seeing it, and then we can look, here's on the 1 minute chart. Now I don't mind taking, when I'm in this, when I have a zone this size like here, and it's coming to start turning around, I'll start looking for a turnaround inside the zone, because I know that by the time I get out of the zone, if I catch a turnaround, I've got 59 pips under my belt. So there's lots of room before, but you could just wait a little bit on this one. We're in the zone. Here's our, from this pivot here, I'm on a 1 minute chart now. I've got 40, this is a 42, 41, almost 42 pip range. So I can draw a fib off of this on my 1 minute chart to find out when this thing's going to start turning around. We're starting to get the turnaround. We have, here's a drop, here's a little basing right in this area. And all we're doing is just narrowing it down to those little micro levels. Here's a drop, here's the base, here's a target area. If it starts breaking this one, this starts breaking this little zone right in here, then we may be able to reverse these positions.
I just added to the position.
To go short?
Because the momentum chart hasn't changed. This is just a pullback.
So with this one, so this was New Zealand yen. So you just added another position short. We have a pullback. We have a crossover right now. But when I get when I see a strong move down and a pullback, and I see these two crossing over where the green's going up, then I like to use a sell stop, because that way, if it keeps on going up, I'm not getting into the trade. But as soon as it crosses over and gets me a green candle coming back down and catches me into the trade, these two moving averages should be crossing back into the right order again. And if I'm wrong, I have a very tight stop. I can, if I'm wrong and to go short, my stop is going to be up above here. But my target right now from down here would be, that's 9 pips. So right now it's got almost a 10 pip pullback. All it's got to do to get my 7 pips out of it here is to come in and get me in here. I don't like the idea that this thing's still crossing over and has rally, a little bit of a base in here. Right now, I'd probably wait until it comes back up into this little area. But this is my 23 to, it is in my 23 to 50% range that I talk about. So is validated to take it short. But I'm looking at this little area right here where it came up to retest. We have a little trend line. Here's a basing. Here's the pivot high. Here's our trend. Here's our pivot high. Anchor. Here's a hit. And I can take this thing short. Right? You say the strength's still good on this?
Kiwi is the weakest of all except on the 5, and Swiss is the strongest, and then yen is second across the board.
Okay, so I'm in this trade.
You're 6-0 pretty much.
And I'm going to be looking for a 7 pip target, 15 pip stop, 7 pip target. But my target, my stop is way up here. My target is somewhere down here. Oh, it's right behind this little fib line right here. Now, if I'm wrong and this thing starts breaking through this trend line, if it starts breaking through this moving average, I'll be out of this trade and I'll start thinking about maybe reversing positions, because then it may be coming up to retest this upper 25 up in here.
Wrong? Who's going to plan on being wrong? We're not going to be wrong.
Never in this room.
Not in this room.
There's the upper 25. Oh, don't we wish? Although we're right more often than we're wrong. Let's just say that.
We're pretty amazing.
I had a nice little bounce, came up to our little zone. This little zone right up here. Here was the little, this is a little drop, base, drop, came back to retest the trend line, gave us our second hit on the trend line, and now it's pulling away our target. So we have this move here. Draw a trend line here with the trend line properties, get rid of the ray. Close that out, move this just like this. Take this over here. Here's the high. Here's the low. Here's the high of the trend. Here's where it went up. Here's my target. My target can be right down here. Here's my target zone. And you see it came back up. It kind of came right up to the 38% retracement. And so I'm looking at the 23 to 38% retracement down here. But I can use this little, the length of this big move down with the retrace. I can take the same for a one-to-one target down to this level right here. Me, I'm just going for my 7 pips.
Now the yen is the strongest except for the high time frames.
And so the yen is the strongest of the pair. So it's the second currency of this pair. New Zealand is the weakest. We're just trading the weakest against the strongest. That's all we're doing. And as long as it stays that way, we can keep on chugging along. Every time it pulls back, if it still stays the same, take the trade. And did I not get into that trade? Or did I already hit my target?
Well, you probably just listened to me.
Custom period. Today, here's today's, let's see what we did today. New Zealand yen, yep, already hit my target. And it still has a lot of room to the downside here.
Yes, I'm leaving mine alone right now. I've got 2 positions, one sitting at 6 pips and one is sitting at 1 pip. I expect a little bit bouncy here.
But you can see, so as you can see, as if you just go for these little pieces of the pie, we're just a pile of fish under the big whale. As you go for these little pieces of the pie, you can take larger lot sizes. We have tight stops, and you can start taking, you don't need a big move in order to make profits. You get several $20 trades on a, in this case, it's a fourth that, I mean, I'm looking at a half a lot size. Now, if I were having a large, if I had a 100 pip stop, this lot size that I'd be taking rather than being a 0.5, if I doubled my stop from 15 to a 30, I could only be taking a 0.25. If I do it 4 times, if I do a 100 pip stop rather than a 15, I'm only looking at taking a 0.03. And then you're still having the same risk reward ratio, but we're just banking on the fact that we can determine when this thing's going to start giving up. Now we have a little bit of a, here's a pivot. Here's this pivot right now is getting to be respected right here. If this thing starts going and starts breaking this trend line, we can take this pivot down to here. That was the last one. Here's our 20% line right up in this area. If it starts breaking these 20, if it starts breaking this zone, now we're looking for a possible that reversal till it comes up into this area. This is our 62 moving average. And then we might be looking at maybe taking 21 pips till it gets up to that area on a pullback. But right now, and the thing I'm looking at right now, did it respect, is it going to break this pivot here, or did it respect it? We do have a little bit of a higher close. Here's a pivot low, pulled back up, broke through this little area, gave us our trend line. Now, if it starts breaking this trend line, Then I'm going to be looking at, rather than this being the target, I'm going to be looking at this being a support area in here. There's my little angle to bounce. Now if it starts breaking through, now I can reverse my fibs.
Momentum is still Kiwi is the lowest except on the 5 minute.
Yeah, I'm not worried about this thing going to breaking out as long as that's the case. Right now I'm looking at this little area, the upper 25% of this move maybe being, now I want to make sure, I want to see to it that this trend line here, if it gets broken, that it doesn't break through this little zone up here. If it breaks through this zone, we've got a reversal going. But right now, this is a retest. This is a drop, a base, a drop. Now he's coming up to retest this little area right in here. And we'll see if it does. Right now it's retesting this little trend line. If it breaks this pivot right in this point, that's still okay because it's just a little bit deeper pullback. But here's a W right here. Here's a W. Here's the middle of the W. Here's the right shoulder. Now we're on a 1 minute chart, so that's not always conclusive at this level. But if this bottom trend line can hold and starts breaking up and starts trending, then we have a reversal. But right now it's still respecting this pivot. It's still respecting the trend line, and the strength is still to the downside. The yen is still strong on all 4 time frames.
Mm-hmm.
And the Kiwi is still weak on all 4 time frames. So this is just a pullback.
And we wait some more.
And then we wait. And we can look for, and right now the Swiss and the Kiwi, you could take a look at a Swiss and a Kiwi. So while we're waiting, I'm already done with this trade. I don't usually take them twice. So Swiss Kiwi, Swiss Kiwi, Swiss Kiwi.
It should be the same general picture.
Should be pretty much. Actually, no, we haven't looked at the German 30 yet today.
Oh, you're gonna love this.
Where's my German 30?
It's a beautiful picture of chaos.
Here's our German 30 template. Load. Let's put our template on up here. Let's go to our 15-minute chart. First thing I look and see is that where is this compared to yesterday? We can see this is a strong move down. It broke through the whole range. Here's yesterday's range. Well, it came up to near it, couldn't hold it, couldn't break it, and then it broke the bottom here. I'm looking at the day before. It broke through all this pivot. It broke through this pivot. It broke through that pivot. It's on its way down. Where the bottom is, let's take a look and see if we can find it. Right now, I'm not going to do anything until I know where the bottom is. So I'm come over here, come up to a higher time frame. Here's my green line. Here's where the origin of this move up was. It came down. You can see it came right down, hit that line. Well, that's where I drew that line. It hit this area. So right now, this little area right in here, that's going to be where I'm going to be starting my 20%, because now here's the high. If I look at the top here on this chart, where's my highest peak? It's right up here. This was respected. Here's a high. So here's the anchor. Here's the first hit. It did breach that a little bit on this one. I will accept one little breach for the third hit. I will accept that. I won't accept the candle body in there, but I will accept that little bit of a wick up there. Here's our trend line. So here's our new range from down here to pretty much up here. This one was respected, so we can be looking at this is the upper 25. This is the lower 25. All right, Brian, I'm going to draw this. You tell me where the zones are.
My tool doesn't tell me on the GE30. I don't have that tool that will correlate.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, we'll put it on the trading view and we'll see. Right now,
I don't have that.
I'm looking at a okay, so right now here's my lower 25. Actually, here's my lower 20. Here's the 88.2. This is half of that 25% zone. It was right where it came into that. So, but here's my orange my orange targets to the upside. So now it's hitting into lower zone. These are my targets on the up move. Let me write in those three. Here's my target. Here's my one target. Let's make these orange because that's what we usually do. If I can get it to work. Make this orange. There's an orange line. There's our orange line. There's the 38, 50, and then we got one for the 61. I said, a lot of this sounds confusing. If you're new here, just be patient with yourself and just sit back and observe and watch what we're doing. I'm doing the same thing over and over and over again. And eventually it'll start making sense to you. And if you're not, ask some questions, please. That's what we're here for. We want to teach you guys how to fish. Here's the upper 25. Here's the lower 25. You see it came right into that area on the higher time frame, came right into that area and it's turning around. So we have these markers are marked. This is our higher time frame stuff. I'm going to come here. I'm going to take the Fibonacci's off. And we're going to redraw it on a lower time frame. So here we go. We're going to go to here's our strong move down. Came into our 20% zone. Now it's coming back out. It's starting to retest. This thing is still pointing down. So if it comes up, I would still expect it to bounce off of this. We have our orange zone right here. We have our Fibonacci zone. This is our one that's been trailing all the way down. As this thing pulls back, I'm going to be looking for a pullback somewhere into this area right in here. So I'm going to redraw this and see how far back, I'd like to see it come on up somewhere around to retag this and then look for the pullback. But we don't know where this is going to stop. But right now, I control this. Yeah, there we go. Right now, I'm just going to take it from wherever the high is. Expand the chart a little bit. Now it has pulled out of the 20% zone. I do not have, even on a 1 minute chart, I do not have a close. It came right on up to this little area right in here. Here's a little drop. Here's a little basing. This is the origin of this down move. It came right up and it's retesting this little zone right in here, which is right here at the zero, where I have the zero line. If I move this Fibonacci line over to the top of that, you'll see that right here, it came right up to this line. If I move it up to this one, here's my new upper 25%. So right now it's trading inside. The sideways range is between this little area down here. Now the question is it going to keep on going? We're already in the higher time frame demand zone. Now the question is, now it's trying to pop its way out of here. But we need to make sure that it loses its downward energy. It came down, came back, retraced. If this holds, we can start looking for that trend, and this would be the new target. From here to here, you're looking at, that's a German 30, let's see, not $100. Is that a $100 move? Yeah, I guess it would be. Yeah, that's a $100 move. The fact it had such a strong move down overnight, I'd be looking at this thing to start retracing and start making some headway to the upside. Here's a nice big wick. Let's go to our 5 minute. We are on a 5 minute chart. That's good. We're on the 5 minute chart on this. I like to see this thing close above this 20%, this area. See it close above that and then give me a retrace. Right now, I'm not ready to take this in any direction. We are starting to get the crossover of the 5 and the yellow, 5 and 13. It's starting to cross over. This would be a target right up here. From here to here, that's a $60 move. Again, with this, we're looking at $5, $5 target, $10 stop. We have to be in the right direction. The euro is relatively strong, which means this thing has some pressure to the downside. Any questions? Yes, the German 30 is melting. It has melted. And just the question is it going to start freezing again?
Yeah,
And
you
that's
may
what we're
have
trying.
said. Sorry,
Go ahead, go ahead, Christine. What you got to say?
you may had mentioned, but your lot size is 0.5.
My lot size, yeah, and that's not supposed to be that way. My lot size on this one, on the German 30, this is my default lot size. So when I
Okay.
pull my charts up, they all come up to a 0.5. But I'm glad you brought that to my attention, because when I trade this one, I usually take 1/10 of that. I'll take a 0.05 because this thing has the volatility, and it's also um, because of the volatility and being an index fund. I generally, the indexes I'll trade with about 1/10 of what I normally trade. So this would be a 0.05 on this if I were to take this trade.
Just keeping an eye on the Kiwi yen. We had that strong pullback that you mentioned. It did go all the way to where you said it was going to go. It hit on the 50-minute or 5-minute chart. It hit the yellow 13,
Yep.
and it's progressing down. So it hadn't made a new low, but it did go up about where you said it would be, a deep retracement, and
Yeah.
everything stayed the same on the power grid. So all's good.
So, and here's the anchor. Here's the hit. Here's our third hit right here. Now, here's what I would be concerned about. Now, I'm not. Brian's a different animal than I am, but here's where it did break this trend right here. It passed it, came back, checked the trend line, and now it's going back up again. If I were in this trade, I would be thinking this thing may start to reverse. And so Kiwi yen, we have the Kiwi is off its low on the 5 and 15-minute chart. So it is starting to show some signs of the yen, or the Kiwi is starting to show some little bit of sign of rebelling against the yen.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, I still think the overall push, the big picture's down, but yeah, you got a little growth. You still got yen being strong across the top, except for
Yeah.
I mean, they're number 6, and then Kiwi. What I'm showing is nothing greater than 1, except on the 5, which is this current move right now.
See, what I'm seeing right now is trading sideways inside this zone.
It's creating
right
that
here.
wedge.
It's creating the wedge. Exactly right. So it actually broke this one, and now it's coming up to looks like it's going to retest this area. But you can see it's starting to consolidate a little bit. All these 3 moving averages are starting to get closer and closer together. But it still has to break through this little zone right here. Once it breaks through that, if you look and see, there aren't any wicks particularly until you get up into, even down here, from here to here. Here's our upper trend line. Here's our pivot high. This one was respected. This one's been respected.
Mm-hmm.
There's a
That's
higher
right.
trend line.
That's exactly what I got drawn.
Here's our wedge. So right now it's trading in between this range right here, between this bottom wedge and the top wedge. It's consolidating. It's going sideways inside this black zone right here, and it's going sideways reference to the lower 25%, which is right here.
And I would say too that you got sideways, so there's nothing going to change with my trade until it breaks the wedge and the picture of the momentum changes.
Yeah. So right now it's trending, but it basically just hitting the zone to the zone, back to the zone, back to the zone. Now, once it breaks this, now we're looking at this level up here, and we already marked this up here for the 25% from this pivot to down here. This is the upper 25%.
Now this candle right here on a 5-minute concerns me because we just created a demand zone. So I need to go back to our power grid
the
here.
fact that it broke this trend line, came back up, retested the wedge, came back, retested this trend line, and now I think it's got movement to the upside. I think this thing's going to start going longer.
I still have some room, but yeah, we've got a couple things in our favor for a down move. The supply and demand tool that I showed you guys yesterday has a nice pink area of demand, supply right at the 7630 area. So that's my real wall. If it breaks that 7635, then I'm going to manually get out of it. But right now, the momentum's still showing yen 6 and the Kiwi for the most part 0. So again, it's just consolidating, just like Al said.
But now what I would also be looking at, if this is my top 25% zone, now this is my bottom, here's my middle 3. If it comes up here, is it going to come back? We have a rally, a little bit of a base, a rally. I expect it's going to come back down and retest this area. Came up to wicked above, couldn't close above. Now he's referencing, here's my anchor, here is my first hit, here is my second hit, rejected, came back up, wicked above, fairly close. It did get a little bit higher close from this little candle here where the close was. It did close higher, but still, that's why I'm thinking this thing is going to start. Right now, once this thing breaks this area, then I'm going to start looking for the retracements back to that 25 to 50 area, which is going to be so here's my zone. Here's my, I'm going to just take it to the 61 to the 38. I'm going to this area right here, which is still inside.
You see that zone that you talked about that you said was a rally-based rally? Our supply and demand tool drew that for you, and it's bouncing off of it right now.
Right, and see, here's that. So right now it rallied, based. It came back and right now it just retested this little wick right here. It just retested that. In fact, it retested that and it broke above here. I would like to see it come out. I'd like to do a little more of a confirmation break of this trend line. Once we get that, now we're off to the races, and then here's going to be my target. Once this area gets broken, I'm going to move my fib line up to here, looking for this to be the next 25% in this area, which is right by a moving average. But this would be the target of, if this thing breaks, this would be the next target. And do we have 7 pips? We've got 10 pips. So if this thing starts trending to the upside, this is going to be the next target. If this breaks, I'm going to be looking for the trend pullbacks to get in and then use this area for the target. This is how you start identifying these reversal patterns.
Kiwi still weak across the board except on the 5-minute chart.
I still want to see this thing break. And if you start looking from this move here, if you start looking at these 3 lines, there are orange lines from this down move, now we're looking for the targets to the upside. Here's our targets. Here's our down move. So from this point to here, that's our range. Here's our 61. Here's our first orange line. Here's our second orange line. I should make these a little thicker. Here's our third. So it came from the low, came up, broke it, retested it. Here's our retest. Came back, has it closed. We got it just to close right here. We did get a 5-minute. Oh, are we in a 5-minute chart? No, let's get a 5-minute chart here. Let's see. Did we get the 5-minute close above there? Not quite.
You're on the 15.
Oh, thank you. That's better. Yeah, we did get a 5-minute close above this orange, and now we're starting to get the consolidation. Right now, everything's consolidating. Is trying to break out of this area. Like I said, if it breaks through this, then I'm looking for more of an uptrend. This would be the next target area. Then this would be the next target area. And actually, we could, this, because here's the drop, base, drop. This would be the next retest. Right now, it's retesting this little wick over wick area. If it breaks that, it's coming back up to here. If it breaks that, it's coming on up to this pivot. Don't know that for sure, but that's what we can anticipate. Let's take a look at this on the trading view chart, Kiwi Yen. Kiwi Yen. Here's our zones. Here's our 15-minute chart. Make sure I got 15-minute zones on here. 15-minute. Here's our price. What zones are these? It bounced right off the green. Here's our blue. Still in a downtrend. We still have the strength of this. The yellow line's the kiwi. The other one is the yen. The blue one is the yen. Yen is still strong. Yen is still the second currency of the pair. We're still looking at facing this on the downside, especially on the 15-minute. It's not even coming close, but it is bouncing between these two zones right in here. So that's where the levels are. Here's our 15-minute blue. And that's at 50, 76, 53, 56. Actually, I'm just going to use this with a 2. Let me change the chart here. Kiwi yen. Let me change this to a 2-digit chart here. Load change. Load chart. 2 digits. That's what I want here. In fact, it's the yen pair, Kiwi yen. Whenever I have I only go for the 2-digit charting when I'm trading the yen pair because that's pretty much what it does. And I'll redraw this. Take this one off right now. Have our RCS tool, Kiwi yen. Look at where our zones are. 15-minute chart. Put the fib lines on. Make sure they're in the right order. 15-minute. Actually, yeah, we'll do these. Again, these lines are a little bit different. They play a little bit differently with the yen pairs, but they still work. Here's my blue line. Here's my green. So it came right up to the green line. So right now it's trading between these two green lines right in here. Let me take something off of this. And so right now, here's our fib lines. Here's our 15-minute green. That's at 76.75. Minute green, 76.11. So we have a 64 pip range, which is a good range. Put our Fibonacci's on. Here's our range. Here's our lower 25. Higher time frame. I'm using the 15-minute as my higher time frame. Remember, we're only going for 7 pips. And clone that, move it up to the upper 25, right up in here. Lock all that. Now I'm going to, so we can see this is our range. Here's where it's trending. It drop, base, drop. It's going to probably come up here and retest this little zone right in here. Here's our middle of the zone. Here's our mid-range. From here to, whoops. From here to here. Bring it on over. Here's our mid-range. Higher time frame. Now we're going to go to our 1-minute chart or 5-minute chart. Bring it on up. See how it looks with that. And right now I'm looking to see it's starting to hit our mid-range zones. It's coming out of the 25%. New Zealand yen. So New Zealand should be starting to show a little bit of strength right now. And it is on the lowest time frame. It's still showing basically weekly. It's basically showing me that this is probably a pullback right now. But it may be starting to retrace and change directions here. Let's go to 1-minute chart. Put our fib lines on. I'm going to use a 15 of higher time frame on this one. I'm just going to use a 5-minute. I like that a little better. And here's a bounce right off the green zone. that's coming out of this lower 25, coming back up. I'm looking right now for this thing to start retracing. How's our time doing? We have about 8 more minutes. Okay. Here's our range. Here's the pullback. It came out of the zone, closed above the zone. Now I'm waiting for this pullback. How far is it going to pull back? I have no idea, but I'm going to anticipate probably the 38 to the 61 in this area right in here. Come back in, probably come back into the zone, give us a trend line. To probably somewhere right around in, this has a pretty good little move right now. See where it's basing right up in here. It came, here's a drop, here's the basing, came right up into that basing area. Now it's coming to retest. So what it's going to be retesting now is going to be retesting probably this line right in here, this little area. Pulling back, and that's our 38 to 61. So I can draw that. This is lower time frame. Entry. We're looking at possible entry into this area right in here. I'm not real anxious to take this trade. Like I said, I've already made my profit off this trade. I don't like to get greedy.
I'm in it still, so.
Well, you are.
Yeah.
Of course you are.
But the picture hadn't changed. The picture hasn't changed.
No. Brian's looking a little bit higher. He's probably looking at this little area here. Right now, from here, from this little area, from the zone to zone, he's probably looking at, okay, it's coming back up to retest this higher. But the retracement from this to here, we tagged the green line. We also tagged the, well, this would be the 38%, this would be a 61% retracement from here. Retrace 61% of this down move, and it's probably coming down to retest this little area right in here. And right now, it's
the current candles
inside,
looks pretty good.
It's trading inside the range. In other words, this wedge is getting tighter and whoops.
Tighter and tighter.
Tighter and tighter. Let me just take this fib off.
But our Hercules tool hasn't changed, so
Hercules says here's a couldn't close above here. Came back down, couldn't close below. So right now it's trading between this point and this point. I'm going to suspect that it's going to bounce somewhere off of this little area right in here.
And that pivot that you just went through, if you look to your left, you got a pivot drop, base drop. I don't know if you mentioned that particular area. The last pivot high.
This one here?
Yeah.
Drop.
If you looked, the last pivot high and then move to your left. No. Your pivot high, the most recent.
This one here.
That one. Now look left.
Oh, right. Here's the zone.
That drop pivot, it's a pivot base drop there.
Here's the drop. Here's the origin of this big drop.
Right.
It came right.
And it just went right into there.
Had a little bit of an overshoot of this green fib line. Had a little bit of an overshoot. Came back up. Here's our new trend line right up in here. So I'm going to draw the trend line. Here's the trend line. Here's the anchor. Here's the hit. And now you can see where this thing is right now. It's range bound. It's range bound between this trend line and this trend line. When it comes down here, you can take another buy, or if this breaks, it's going lower. Right now, I'm thinking it's going to come down here, bounce, and start trending up higher. That's my opinion.
And in that case, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be moving my stop down to the pivot.
Right now, it's trading into a tighter range. I like getting when I start. How am I going to say this? When we start looking at the ranges from pivot high to trend line, that's 20 pips. Once it starts getting within more than 20 pips or less than 20 pips, I'm not interested in the trade because you're going to have to lose some of the spread. It's getting narrower, which means when it comes down, it's probably not going to get down as low as this one. It's probably going to be a little higher. When it goes up, it's probably not going to get as high as this one. It's going to come in a little bit lower. So your true range that you're going to be looking at from this pivot low to, let's see if I can draw this here, from to here. Here's our pivot. Here's our trend lines. These are our trend lines. And if this trend line is going to be, next time it comes down here, it's going to be a little bit higher than here. So realistically speaking, if you're going to start measuring this, if it bounces off of here, it's going to come over, not just right above it, but it's going to come because it's got, and now you've got a 15 pip range. I'm not interested in a 15 pip range when it's inside of a wedge like this. I'll pass on it. And right now we have about 4 more minutes. Any last minute questions, comments, areas that you may be confused with? Are we losing anybody? Are we finding this helpful? Let me just say, I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to ask a couple of questions. I want you to put your hands up. Are you more confused or less confused today? If you're more confused, put your hand, if you're more confused, put your hand up. And they're so confused they don't even know how to vote.
That's the question. No, yeah, positive stuff in the chat now.
Everybody's very good. Okay, thank you. And so good. Okay, good. If you are confused, you know what we may want to do, Brian, is maybe like have some special sessions for people that may be real new to this thing, to just rather than as we're trading, rather than doing it while we're trading, just try and go over the specifics. That way they can maybe ask specific questions of where they may be a little foggy with things. Maybe I tried to
we talked about doing a recorded version of just seeing what the tools are, because that's the most complicated part of it. Price is price. Just knowing how to use the tools.
And like I said, I'm bouncing back and forth between 2 different platforms, but I'm basically showing you the same exact thing pretty near on the 2 different platforms. For those of you who have TradingView, you can, and if anybody has TradingView and you want some of these tools, just email us. And right now they're available free. They may or may not be for a period of time, but now's a good time to get used to using them.
Take advantage while it's free. Yeah.
Take advantage while it's free. There are some changes coming. Some of it we have control over, some of it we don't. But just keep in mind that we're here to help you guys become better traders and to help you save some of the loss of, I call it the high price of tuition in learning the trading game. We're just trying to save you from making the same mistakes we've made over the years. And that's all I can say about that. With that, looks like we're just about out of time. Last minute questions. Going once, twice. And with that, I'm done taking trades for the day. I've had 2 good trades. Brian's had 50.
50.
No, I think it's 7 out of 9 and holding on to 3. So I got 3 sitting here. We'll find out. I'll post it in the Hawkeye session Telegram to let you know how it ends up.
Yeah, if you're not hooked up to the Hawkeye Telegram channel, please do. I'm not sure how to. Do you know how to do that, Brian?
Let me go over here and grab it real quick while we're here.
Give them the link. Put in the link in the chat box on how to contact us in our Telegram. And we'll try and keep some updates. Brian's our update guy. Aren't you, Brian?
What's that again?
You're the update guy for the Telegram channel.
I'm trying to be. Okay, so let me see if this will work in the... Yeah, try that. That's one of them. That's our Hawkeye. We also have Trade Masters community. So if you're not in part of that community as well and you'd like to be, we put that up there too. Just so you guys can have that too. So 2 different channels. That way you're connected to both. First one in the chat box is the Hawkeye. Second one is just Trade Masters. Just Trade Masters.
And if you're looking at my chart right now, if I didn't have these fib lines on, which I'll take them off, if I didn't have these fib lines, like if you on MT4, you'll see that I would be using this pivot high. I'd be using this pivot low to draw my channels. But if you also notice that when I put the tool on, it's right there. It's right down here. all the tool does is helps me save some time in trying to guess. If I just use the tool, I just bring it up here a little bit. We're only looking at 1 pip, not a big deal. If I look down here, here's the blue line. I'm only looking at 1 pip. So whether you have the tool or not, it doesn't really matter. Just find the pivot high, significant one, and draw it, and then look for those upper 25%, the lower 25%, and the middle third. Price goes from the upper 25 to the middle third, back up to the upper 25 sometimes, or sometimes it goes from there all the way down to lower 25. But either way, when it gets to these extremes, it finds its way back into the middle. And what we're doing is find out where the extremes are, and we wait for it to break out of that 25% extreme, wait for the pullback, give us a trend line where it says, okay, it made it slow, it came back down. Because basically what's happening is you've got buyers down here. There's some buyers in here, it came back out, it left some buyers behind. It's coming back to pick up its buddies, and then it's going up higher. Comes back to pick up some more of its buddies, goes up higher. Comes back to pick up some more of its buddies, goes up higher. And up here, it says, okay, we still have some sellers sitting up in this area. When it gets them in here, take the sell. And it goes from this zone down to this zone. That's really all we're doing. We just do it on different time frames. And we're using the multi-time frame analysis for the higher time frame, which in this case for the scalping type of trading that we do, I'm using the 15-minute for my high time frame. I'm using my 1 minute or my 5 minute for my lower time frames. But once I find that range, then I just start looking and say, okay, here's the move up. Here's where it came. Here's where it left. Here's my pullback. Now I'm looking to go higher. Here's my stick. Here's the range. This is the range of the big move. Here's where the pullback was. Take my stick, move it down to the bottom where the pullback was, and here is my target.
All is
That's
good.
pretty much it. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. And then we're done.
And we're done.
And then we're done. So with that, thanks again, everybody. We appreciate every one of you being here. I hope you learned something today. If you're confused, get some questions put down so that next time you come in here, you can ask the questions. Tomorrow's going to be Friday. Tomorrow's going to be a rather volatile day, I think. So we may not be doing much trading tomorrow, but we'll be here to answer questions. Fridays are good days just to go over some of the things, to answer some questions, get you some of the areas where you may be a little bit confused about, and address some of those areas. And with that, thanks again. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you guys.
See y'all tomorrow.